Through the Looking Glass is another book that has been annotated because Carroll was such a scholar that when he wrote through Alice in Wonderland, it's a great story for kids, but there's also another level on which the story operates, and so you need to have the annotated version to understand some of the other levels on which the story runs. So an annotated bibliography is some of the references that you're going to rely on when you write your paper with a couple of sentences showing me that you read them. Okay? There are a couple of reasons I do that. Again, it's a way to make sure that you're moving along, that we're not going to come to the next to last week in the semester and you come to me and say, oh, I don't think I can turn in my paper on time because I haven't even started yet. So if you have to come up with a title, an abstract, an annotated bibliography pretty early on, it's not too likely you're going to get in trouble later in the semester. And then, that's not the end of it. I am a pain in the neck. Because later on, a couple of weeks later, I guess somehow that got confusing also. A couple of weeks after your annotated bibliography, you're going to have to do for me an outline. And I think out here I have an example of a really good outline that was done by a student in a prior semester.
On which date will that be due?
I'll have to correct the syllabus and let you know. But probably not till somewhere around the 15th. I'll put it in somewhere around the 15th. And then the last day, on the day of your final, you'll bring with you your paper and put it in my hand. And you can see how it's going to be graded by clicking on a grading rubric. What am I going to look for? In the introduction to your paper, I'm going to look for a statement of the problem and a statement of what you discovered or learned from writing the paper. In the review of earlier work, again, there's going to be a restatement of the problem and your interpretation of the extant theory and evidence regarding the proposition that you were working on. And then the next part of your paper, I'm going to look for what you contributed. How much originality is there? I'm going to check for style. That includes spelling, grammar, and syntax. For those of you who are non-native speakers of English, it's probably best to keep your sentence and paragraph structure simple. Simple is good. There's nothing wrong with keeping sentences short. In order to have compound and complex sentences, you have to be really good at whatever language you're writing. And there's no shame in writing simple sentences. Clear, concise, easy to understand sentences, as long as they are grammatically and syntactically correct. Josh, Boris. What's Josh? What is syntax? If I said to you, over the fence, throw the cow some hay, that's a grammatically correct sentence. Syntactically, it's incorrect, because I'm not telling you to throw the cow over the fence. I'm telling you to throw the hay over the fence to the cow. Hear the difference? Over the fence, throw the cow some hay. Grammatically, it's perfectly correct, but syntactically, it's a little difficult. Somebody listening to you would understand what the intent was. They'd know there's no way in the world they'd pick up a cow and throw it over the fence. And the intent was to throw the hay over the fence. And so I look for those things. If you have been reading the popular press, one of the things that journalists love to write about is cheating and plagiarism. And you would think, reading the American press, that cheating and plagiarism is rampant in the United States. My undergraduate students, I don't believe cheat because I don't give them the opportunity to do so. When I give an exam in an undergraduate class, in the same sitting of the exam, there are usually 3 or 4 different versions of the exam. The multiple choice part, questions are all scrambled, the answers are scrambled, so that if you're sitting next to a person, even though the statement of the question looks the same, the letter of the right answer has changed. And I write different versions of the problems. So the statement of the problem might be the same, but I change the numbers. So they don't have so you're never sitting next to somebody that has the same exam. The undergraduates also have to turn their baseball hats around backwards. So they can't have anything in the brim of the hat. They have to, if they bring a bottle of water with them to class, they have to peel the label off the bottle of water. So they can't write anything on the inside face of the label and read it through the bottle. What else do I make? They can't have their cell phone out on the table for any reason at all, and so on and so forth. So I don't think that my undergraduate students cheat much. I don't think my graduate students cheat either, just because you're past that, usually. In the 30 years I've been here, I have caught 3 people cheating. The first semester I was here, I went to a dissertation defense, And we got about 3/4 of the way through it, and I said, well, I think I've read some of these passages before, elsewhere. And we adjourned and reconvened the next. And I went to the library to find the original articles from which I thought the material had come. And the enterprising individual had gone so far as to not only plagiarize the articles, but cut the articles out of the journals. So that student, in spite of having invested 5 years in their graduate program, was dismissed instantly, without degree in hand. A few years ago, in this class, well, I know what the other thing is. The undergraduate students are allowed to bring their calculators, but you know those Hewlett-Packard calculators have those covers that slide on and off them? Well, I never thought very much about that. Until one day, one exam with the graduate students, I happened to be walking around the room and I noticed that one of the students had cheat sheets inside the cover. So now the undergraduate students have to take the cover off their calculators and put them in their book bags. And I apologize in advance. I will require you to do the same thing, because I caught a graduate student with a cheat sheet inside the cover to their calculator. Okay. So I apologize to you in advance, but I don't. So that person was dismissed from the class. There was no second chance. They had to withdraw and start over from the beginning in another semester. Somebody in here asked me whether or not you needed to bring a notebook so you could work on things at your chair. One semester I tried teaching the class over in one of the computer labs in the basement of the Tuttleman Learning Center. And the idea was that the students could, and in those days there was a stripped out student version of MathCAD. Had very limited functionality, but you could do some things on it. And so I told them that they could do some of the more difficult parts of the exam on the stripped out version of MathCAD that had been installed on the different machines. And I figured, well, you know, these guys, they're mature adults. I don't have to, I can trust them. So I was sitting there working in front of the room, and I was tired of sitting. I got up and walked around the room, and lo and behold, somebody had found a way to use the internet to answer some of the exam questions, and it was cheating that way. So they also were excused from the class and they had to do it over again another semester. So if you cheat, you're out, and I catch you, you're out of here. What's plagiarism? Plagiarism occurs when you submit a text as your own words, but in fact is somebody else's words. So for example, in the homework that you did for me that you discussed last week, I said, in your own words. And that means in your own words. It doesn't mean cut and paste. I told you I lived in Germany for 1.5 years, and I got pretty good at spoken German. After I was there for 10 weeks, I passed the admissions test for the technical university. So I got pretty good pretty fast. I could make puns in German. Making puns in another person's language is pretty hard. I could write fairy tales in German with puns and allusions built into it, so I was pretty good. But at the end of the 1.5 years, nobody would have trouble identifying me as a non-native German speaker, because my syntax was always a little bit off. Sometimes my syntax would be too simple. Sometimes it would be just a little bit weird. So if you think that I can't read something that you've submitted and distinguish between what you've written and what you got from somebody else, you're mistaken. So make sure that if you're giving me something that you say you have written, that it's in your words, not that you cut and pasted it. On the homework that you gave me last week, one of the questions was, give me a definition of correlation. Give me a definition of simple or partial correlation. And it was clear to me that a couple of people had just gone to Wikipedia or someplace like that, and they had cut and pasted it. And the reason, so I was a little suspicious, so I flipped to the last question, which didn't have a cut and paste answer. And the vocabulary and sentence structure was so different between the answer for which there was no cutting and pasting and the answer for which cutting and pasting was possible, that I could tell instantly that a few people had just cut and pasted their definitions elsewhere, and they hadn't put it in their own words.